and ships disappearing. And when you don't have that stabilization in the air, what she's referring to, well, that's kind of what happens, right?
Yes.
And so we just want to make you aware of that when you are traveling, and be more aware of your surroundings and have a better understanding. So let's see how she breaks that down, helping us understand why this is occurring, why this is happening. I had talked to someone else also that talked about this turbulent ride that they had, and it was when we were in Atlanta, and we talked to some folks at a meeting, and they were expressing the same sentiment, like they're on these flights that are having more and more turbulence. And so this is not just something by coincidence. This is happening, folks. And another reason why I always tell people, you want to get involved in the Creative Society to learn more. Watch the videos online. Go to the Creative Society and be able to educate yourself if you'd like. Or listen to this program. That's the whole purpose of why we're doing this. Right?
Yes, it's one thing about it is, I know it's 12 hours, and I know that's a long time in your day. And right now, that's why we're doing this right here, so you can see and hear it and be more motivated to see what it is in a Creative Society that you need to know, especially if it's dealing with turbulence, whether it's dealing with weather or whatever the case might be. You can go to the Creative Society and get the information. It is in 150 different languages worldwide. A lot of time, a lot of editing, a lot of filming.
Volunteers, make sure you say that.
And volunteers, yes.
They work hard.
Yeah, volunteers. And they volunteer all over the world, giving their time, their talent, and skill set to give that information to you while you watching it freely at your leisure.
Yeah, so just, that also tells you that with all that time invested, that tells you how serious these topics are that we're discussing. When we're talking about the climate change and why it is happening. So let's take a look at the excerpt as scientist Elizabeth explains the rest of this turbulence issue, and then we'll talk about the weather, because I know that's on everyone's mind as well.
Unfortunately, in the consumerist formative society where human life worth nothing, such anomalies are not properly studied, and moreover, they will be hushed up to the last moment so that not to cause panic and not to lose profit. How many airlines do you think will want to make a statement that flying is now dangerous? Well, you know the answer yourself. Let's summarize. Due to the malfunction in the Earth's core caused by the external cosmic impact, the magnetic field of our planet undergoes catastrophic changes. Anomalous auroras, light pillars, atmospheric voids, turbulence anomalies, zones of air and water decompaction are appearing, where overturns are formed, areas of magnetic anomalies. Living organisms and people are dying. And if the overall destabilization of the magnetic field is related to the disruption of the core in general, then local migrating zones of magnetic anomalies have an even more detailed explanation. These anomalies are formed by sudden bursts of electromagnetic energy from the planet's interior, and these bursts occur as a result of cavitation explosions in magma in the interior of our planet. We have described this mechanism earlier in the forum when we talked about defocus earthquakes, including those that caused the tragedy in Turkey and Syria. With such a cavitation explosion in magma, the wave propagates tangentially, as in the Yudkin effect, and leads to the appearance of the zones of atypical magnetic fields anomalies on the plane's surface. Due to the destabilization of the core, such explosions occur more and more frequently, which means that soon we will observe not only intensification of such above-mentioned anomalies, but also a huge amount of lightning striking from the Earth's interior and the increase in the number of ball lightning. All the facts you have heard today about the changes in the electromagnetic field indicate that our core is already extremely unstable, and that means that our planet is currently following the worst scenario of the cycle of climate catastrophes.
Okay, so we're not trying to scare everyone, but we're trying to also give you the truth. Again, investigative journalist, mathematician over here. And so these magnetic anomalies, do you have a better understanding now that she's talked about how unstable the Earth's core is and the lightning strikes? What was the one thing that came out of this discussion or came out of what she just said? What stuck out for you?
The anomaly of what it is when you going on a plane, basically.
You're
know
still
what I mean?
stuck on that.
I'm still stuck on a plane. I'm just, because I just experienced it a few days ago. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it's going to get worse. It's not getting better. What is the solution to it? You know, I'm always trying to find, how can I find a solution? What can we do to either reverse it or either stop it or something like that? You know, we always have this doom and gloom of fear, you know, and that's not what the Creative Society is trying to portray or what we're trying to portray. We're just trying to give the facts and the truth of what is happening to our Mother Earth right here and what's going on throughout our atmosphere. So we're just trying to see what is it that we can, one, inform everybody what it is so we can find a solution unitedly or with everybody involved. And that's the main purpose that I'm looking for.
So that's what the purpose of the Creative Society, for looking at solutions and the unification. That means we all got to come together.
Yes.
Because if you're concerned about these disasters happening throughout the earth, if you're concerned about what happens when you get on a plane and the turbulence and all of those things, the reason why the Creative Society is the answer, because you're bringing some of the top minds and greatest scientists together. You're bringing the top technology together,
Yes.
and we'll be sharing that in upcoming episodes to help explain more about how we can overcome this together. But it has to be now. This is just the information phase that we're talking about all this, but eventually we got to have action. So we need people to come on board now, have a better understanding what's going on, and then join the Creative Society so that we can create a different future. I want a different future. I mean, don't you?
Yes, I do want a different future.
I like the future of being appreciated as a human being versus my skin tone or what I look like or my gender or anything like that. And so that is what I appreciate about the Creative Society. But back to scientist Elizabeth, when she's talking about the unstable core and what does all that mean and the lightning strikes, all that correlates. Everything is connected, is what we're seeing. And now we're going to talk about the climate because that's all connected. And as we're talking about these magnetic anomalies, they will become more frequent, whether we like that or not, or whether we accept that reality or not. This is the science that has not always been as open as it should. And so I do appreciate that the Creative Society is being completely open about the science and is being completely open about what we need to do about it. But we have to come together now so that we can begin to truncate these type of issues that we're seeing, turbulent planes and turbulence on a plane and so forth. So let's see what she has to say as she goes into...
Later in the forum, you will learn why humanity will face its end even earlier than 2036. Another confirmation of this is the intensification of climate anomalies and disasters on the planet as a whole. We carefully study everything that is happening to our planet, all the habits of the climate servers, because we realize that if no one does that, then humanity is simply doomed. And now we want to present to your attention a video containing terrifying facts about the growing power of the climate Cerberus, which unfortunately we cannot counteract today.
Natural disasters of such magnitude and force have never been witnessed by our humanity before. It is like a Cerberus that burst out of the Earth's interior. We have been watching the climate Cerberus when it was just beginning to grow. We're thousands of volunteers of the climate monitoring team of the Creative Society from all over the world, who work 24/7 to collect and analyze huge amounts of data, studying the habits of the climate Cerberus. Even several research institutes can't process that much data. But it can be done by people united by one goal. Watching the Cerberus, we have realized that it has now grown and broken free. It is already tearing apart our planet, destroying our homes, and taking people's lives. And yet, most people are not aware of this threat at all and do not understand what is happening to the climate. But But we realize that the climate Cerberus will not stop on its own. To stop it, we must study all its habits. The cost of each of them is the lives of many people. The Cerberus is now many steps ahead of us, and we're only following its trail. We will tell you about the habits we have managed to identify. After watching this video, you won't be able to say that no one has warned you.
Can I pause before we get deep into this video as we talk about what's been happening even in our own backyard, the climate? What have you noticed about the heat index living even where we live in Fresno, California, which is located in the middle of California?
Well, in Fresno, California, where we live currently right now, I noticed last summer they was having what is called severe heat problems, to where we had to get what is called cooling centers. So the mayor and a lot of the elected officials out there had cooling centers in that particular area because, you know, they can't go out there in the heat so much. You have homeless populations that had to go to these cooling centers. You have a lot of residents just couldn't even go outside in their car. They stayed inside. So it was
just too hot.
It was just too hot. It was about over 120.
It was hitting some very high degrees.
And it was so hot. You come outside and it was like really hot.
It's like your forehead was burning. It was terrible.
And then if it's that hot when you come outside, imagine if you driving in a car. Imagine if you working in the fields, because that's a farm area out there. And it was just unbearably hot. And I don't look forward to 2023 summertime this year, because I know it's going to be even hotter.
And if all the people that work in the agricultural industry, at least in the Central Valley that feeds the world, we were looking at how even some of the workers were feigning passing out. There were no cooling centers out there when you're working out in the field. So they had to be more cognizant of that and tend to their needs, because there were heat strokes. There were a lot of maladies from just the heat wave itself. And so they're really worried also about how early the heat is coming this year. Even if you notice in April, we went straight from winter straight to summer, and we're in the spring. Do you notice that? It went from our atmosphere. We were having a whole bunch of atmospheric rivers in California because we were in a severe drought just in California.
Yes, that summer. And there was
several summers.
It wasn't not a lot of water around. We was having water crisis. And I was also looking into like the truck drivers. You know, the amount of fuel, the amount of gas, the amount of energy that it takes to just blow the air conditioner. And the expense of in our area is called PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric.
Electric bills.
Yeah, the electric bills were sky high. You know, before the bill would be somewhere like about out here is the US dollar $200 or $300. Now it's $600, $700, $800. So it was very
People are
expensive.
seeing those electric bills triple. And they're tripling because they're trying to stay cool, and at the same time, the electric company can only take so much on the electric grid. In California last summer, we were having alerts to turn off all your electricity, turn everything off, because the electric grid was about to shut down. Remember that?
Yes.
We were in the middle of editing. I think we were about to do a show. I'm like, what do you mean the grid is about to go down? Once a grid goes down, you know, it's going to take days or possibly weeks to get back up. So they sent out a text message alert telling us all, shut everything off, shut it down. Please turn off your electricity so we can save on the grid. And I'm thinking we're supposed to all be having electric cars by 2030 that California is moving into. That's what our governor has said, that's what the ruling is, that they want to be able to have everyone or stop selling electric cars in 2030. But we can barely even manage what is on our grid. And we're just looking at 2023. That's 7 years from now, and we're already having these problems. So although we're out of a drought miraculously in California due to the atmospheric rivers, it's going to be a hot summer. It was already 86 degree right after that winter. It's like where we live in Central California, it was 86 degrees. Then I was talking to a colleague of mine on the phone. She's in Southern California. In Southern California, normally it's a nice temperature of maybe 65 to 75, 80 degrees. It was 40 degrees in the springtime, and she was freezing. She's like, Julia, I don't know what's going on with this weather over here. I am freezing cold. It's 40 degrees in Southern California. People like to sing that song by Tony.
Yes.
It never rains in Southern California. It's raining now, y'all, and there's all this flooding going on, right? There's all this massive flooding, and you've got these sinkholes now because the ground can't hold. So you've got the mudslides in Northern California and Central California and Southern, and now you've got the sinkholes because underneath the ground, it's not able to hold all that water. There hasn't been any water for such a long time. So this climate change, some of you are wondering what's going on. We're telling you about what's going on. So when you see the term Cerberus, all that means, that term, it just means a collection or an overview of what's happening worldwide. Now, not me and you watch late night, the flooding happening all throughout the world. Why do we do that? I think it's because we can't, I'll speak for myself and you tell me why we watch it. I know that I knew before the Creative Society that something was happening. I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I would go and check all the news outlets. I would check like The Guardian, some of the ones I really trust, even NPR. And I'm thinking, no one's reporting on this.
I always go to somewhere like YouTube. I always go and research and see what's happening around the world. And in some areas, like they would say in Turkey, it's an earthquake. But in other areas, it's hot. Like, for example, in China, I was looking at China, and I was seeing people walking and their shoes was literally
stuck to the ground,
burned.
The rubber soles were burning.
Yeah, it was burning. And they was going into department stores trying to just use their air conditioning. Oh my goodness. I cannot imagine that. I could see that possibly happening in Fresno, California, in Central California, and maybe throughout California. So that was scary to see how people were dying of heat strokes. People are not able to get water. The water was, I was remember looking at the river or lake that they have in China, and it was completely dry.
Bone dry.
And they have statues that nobody haven't seen in centuries, if not longer. And I was like, what is going on?
And then remember the Mississippi River, even in the United States. All these old artifacts and old shipwreckage was coming up even in Mississippi. And they were worried because the levels of Mississippi River were getting so low that you couldn't run any more boats through the river.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of things are transported throughout the South and even throughout the United States was that use of that river. And so they were really worried, and we still are. So it goes from one extreme to the other. We're seeing flooding over here in other countries, and then flooding in different parts of the United States, and then droughts in other parts.
And then heat waves.
And then heat wave.
But when the water is going and everything, if you're a fisherman, and you know a lot of people like eating fish, that affects that fishing ecosystem that they have right there, because now the fisherman loses money. And also the fish that eaten by the population doesn't get there, you know, because there's a drought in fishing or fish. So
some of them are dying ashore, and we'll talk about that in another episode about the extinctions and what all that means.
So, but with the heat wave in those areas, it's unbearable. It's unbearable to work if you're an outside worker. It's unbearable to work if you're a truck driver. It's unbearable to work if you work just mowing the lawn, and you know, it's just unbearable.
Right.
So
we'll watch this clip, and as we're looking at Cerberus, I just wanted you to know what that means. It's just an overview of all the events happening worldwide. And when you hear that term, we just want to break that down. It's not a made-up term. It's just describing all of the events that are taking place, like in lightning speed, lightning fast, all happening. And you're like, what is going on? Is it the end of the world? Oh, well, yeah, kind of. But don't worry, it's not quite the end yet. There is a way, and we're telling you the way through the Creative Society. We haven't gotten to that yet, but we will in other episodes talk about the technology that and also more about how we can become together as one. So I don't want you to look at this as doom and gloom. I want you to understand what's going on, because some of you have asked the questions just like we did.
Yes.
We were wondering,
Yes.
what the heck is going on? Why is nobody talking about this? And so I appreciate the scientists in the Creative Society who are helping us to understand. So let's watch an overview of the events and have a better understanding together.
The Cerberus attacks suddenly and lightning fast when you least expect it.
There was almost no time to react.
Nothing. We couldn't take anything out because the fire was coming, and it was terrible.
There was no access to get out.
Yeah, I had to jump out of the window.
And it was like a movie where the house slides down behind you and you're running for your life. But we have lost home. But we're okay.
On March 28th, people were peacefully walking on the city streets in Georgia. Moments later, they found themselves under the rubble of street structures.
The structure was shaking so much in the wind, I thought it was an earthquake.
Look here, the wind completely tore off the roof of the market, from one end to the other.
In March, the city of Miyakojima, Japan, received more than a month's worth of rainfall within just 1 hour. While you're seeking shelter from the rain, a record amount of water falls on you, and it turns into a flood.
Within 3 to 4 minutes, the water level rose by 2 meters.
It just happened that quickly. Water everywhere.
Within 10 minutes, the whole backyard was a river. It's like two big, huge tsunamis coming through. There was one, and then there was a second one that just came through just so quickly and fast.
The Cerberus does not obey rules. The tactics of its attacks are unpredictable. It swaps the 4 seasons. In February 2023, when it was summer in the southern hemisphere, temperature dropped below zero and the snow fell in Australia and Argentina. While in Europe, summer has arrived in the middle of winter. In Germany alone, 982 heat breakers were broken in just 3 winter days. A few days later, the European heat wave was replaced by an anomalous cold snap. This is happening all over the world. Abnormal heat and cold alternate at a catastrophically fast pace. And that is also the terrifying signature of the Cerberus. It brings chaos to your everyday life. In Africa, in southern Morocco, snow is a rarity. But in February 2023, the inhabitants of several communities were cut off from the outside world after a heavy snowfall. Emergency aid had to be delivered by air. The climate Cerberus is sophisticated and inventive in its attacks. Tropical cyclone Freddy formed in the Indian Ocean in February 2023. Lasting 35 days, the cyclone traveled an enormous distance of 10,000 kilometers, becoming the most powerful cyclone in the southern hemisphere and the longest lived in world history. On its way, Freddy intensified 7 times, which has never happened before, and its trajectory was anything but a normal cyclone track. It turned around several times and continued its way. Cyclone Freddy left catastrophic devastation and claimed more than 600 human lives in 6 countries. The climate Cerberus never sleeps. It attacks when you're most vulnerable and defenseless. Residents of São Paulo in Brazil went to bed to the familiar sound of heavy rain. At dawn, a flash flood and multiple landslides buried about 50 houses with sleeping people. The Cerberus knows no mercy. Now, it's already making some really terrible strikes. But this is only the beginning. On the early morning of February 6, 2023, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake destroyed the peaceful sleeping cities in Syria and Turkey. The deadly quake was only the beginning of a terrible catastrophe, followed by the second powerful earthquake of magnitude 7.5 and thousands of aftershocks. It became a tragedy of a global scale that claimed more than 50,000 human lives according to official figures alone.
Don't be scared, sweetheart. Don't be scared.
Friends, we are buried because of the tremor. Mother, are you okay? Mom.
Granny, are you all right?
Is there really no one there? We're completely buried.
After the earthquakes, the affected regions experienced a sharp cold snap and a snowfall, followed by a severe flooding. The Cerberus is becoming more aggressive, and catastrophes of such magnitude as in Syria and Turkey will occur more and more frequently.
Pause right there, because we've seen a lot of those clips online thanks to the regular average person uploading the footage, not through the news.
No.
Not through any mainstream.
No.
You somehow hunt down those clips and you say, Julia, I'll be downstairs, and you'll say, you got to come up here and see this. You got to come. What is intriguing you when you're seeing these videos like this?
When I see a lot of the people out there, just in so much pain and suffering, and it's unbelievable because, like you said, the temperature drops so drastically. Just drastic drop.
One extreme to the other.
And it never happened before. Like you said, it was a very short amount of time where you have a 1 month worth of water that drops in like 10 minutes.
Remember in Las Vegas when we saw that over the and we were going to go travel to see our friend over last summer, and it was completely flooded?
It was flooded in the casinos.
We would have been stuck in that because it had crossed the freeways.
Yes, I would have never thought in a million years where I see in the casinos it's flooded, and people are trying to find ways to get out.
The streets were flooded, the parking garages were flooded, and that's locally. And then we've watched those Brazil footage. We've watched that several times as far as people uploading the footage. We watched what was happening in Africa and all the flood. I mean, just rivers just running through villages, wiping people out, wiping out communities.
And we sit at home and we look at it and we say, oh, well, that's happening in Brazil. Or that's happening in Africa. Or that's happening in France. Or that's happening in Russia, or wherever the case might be. And you go by your business and say, well, that ain't happened to me. I'm good. That's not my problem. That's their problem. Well, it's going to happen all over the world.
Therefore, it becomes all of our problem. And if we don't look at the solutions as soon as possible, then it becomes the world's problem as it is right now, as we see it. So we're not showing you this to frighten you. We're just showing you to give you a reality check of what is happening out there in case maybe you're not aware of what's going out there in the world. That's okay. We're here to show you that. In case you didn't know that villages are being wiped out in Africa and in Brazil, or cold fronts are just moving in and you don't know why. A cold front might be moving in where you are and you don't know what's happening. And so that was why we are breaking all this down. And even the earthquakes in Turkey, we were alarmed by that back to back. And also in Syria, it was just a total shock. Well, we should be concerned because we live in California where we started getting a swarm of earthquakes. Red flags went up as a warning to me. What about you when you started seeing the swarm of earthquakes happening where we live?
I was like, what is going on? My eyes popped out. I'm like, oh.
Your eyes popped out?
Oh, yeah.
They're still in your head.
Yeah, I feel like they all, just what is going on? And it's scary. It's scary because it's eventually going to happen where you live. You know it's eventually going to happen, and that's going to be your problem. And what are you going to do? Are you prepared? Are your family prepared? How can you prepare for that? And how serious it is for your future, meaning your children and their safety. Or you have a ill mother at home, or you have an ill grandparent. What are you going to do? And
I just want to reiterate, please join us in the Creative Society. I kid you not. I really want us to unify and come together. And we really have a whole plan that makes sure that human life is a priority of life. And it also brings in technology and AI technology. You'll be so amazed as there is a solution there to help us get through life as one, as a society. We can overcome this together, I promise you. We wouldn't be here talking to you right now. The volunteers behind the cameras, the volunteers editing this wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't that serious of a problem. And that's why we're showing you this, to tell you, yes, it's a problem. But if we come together now and start doing something about it now, scientists come together now, and we start building as soon as we can overcome this. We can overcome all the drastic things that you're seeing. So let's watch the last part of this video, and we'll talk a little more. And yeah, let's do that.
The Cerberus appetites are constantly growing. It is devouring more and more territory and taking away our homes. Fires are spreading, millions of hectares are burning, and they're very difficult to extinguish. Floods are covering larger and larger areas. Across Europe, since 2000, there has been a more than 30-fold increase in abnormal rainfall. The Cerberus was weaker before, but now its blows have become more fierce. This year, in Japan and the USA, people died after being trapped in snow in homes and vehicles. Now, even snowfalls have become a deadly threat. Periods of attack last longer. Droughts have become a continuous process that intensifies year by year.
It's March now, and with the snow melting, the water should have been higher than me. But instead, the riverbed is completely dry.
Because there has been a drought here for the whole year. It's not just 3 months, it's a whole year without rain.
If this is happening now, it will be even worse in the summer.
The drought this year was extreme, and given that the previous 2 years also had a drought that dried out the soil, this year all the soil has dried out.
The waves of merciless heat are becoming longer and arriving sooner. Record-breaking temperatures of 104 Fahrenheit hit India and Pakistan already in February. This has happened in Asia for the first time in history. The Cerberus has many heads, and they are all insatiable. It attacks multiple territories at once, and disasters occur simultaneously. Late February 2023, Tropical Cyclone Freddy is raging in Madagascar and Mozambique. At the same time, there is a major winter storm and a historic tornado outbreak in the USA, and major fires in Australia and Chile. Extreme rains and floods hit Indonesia, Brazil, and 17 other countries, while landslides and mudslides occur in the Philippines, India, and Peru. During this time, the world experienced 5 major earthquakes with magnitudes above 6. And this is not even all of the events. The cataclysms are synchronizing, thereby reinforcing each other. This has never happened before, but now it's happening all the time. The climate service grasping onto one territory does not let go of it. In November 2022, the city of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia was hit by a record rainfall. In 6 hours, more rain fell than in 3 years. The next 5 months brought a whole cascade of natural disasters. Giant hail and snow, sandstorms, storms and tornadoes, torrential rains and floods. For more than 3 months in a row, California, USA has been hit by bomb cyclones, atmospheric rivers, a powerful earthquake, hundreds of floods and landslides. This is the first time the residents of the states have encountered anything like this. Climate disasters occur in cascades over one area, and each new wave of disasters brings even more destruction and suffering to people. The Cerberus does not distinguish between the rich and the poor. It does not care about nationality or skin color, and there are no countries, nations, or borders for it. It comes to everyone. The worst part is that the more it eats, the bigger it gets. And the more it is going to devour.
Right, and we experienced some of that living in California. That's the first time we've experienced flooding in our own home.
Yes.
Where the winds were so strong that the wind came on. We have a 3-story condo, and the rain flood went through all 3 floors.
That's
the first time we experienced that.
It was hailing. The big ice box was hitting the roof, not only just on the top floor, but the second floor and also on the bottom floor. Mm-hmm. And we had to get buckets and it was leak at the top of the roof and mops and everything else. But it was scary because you hear the kind of hail that's hitting your roof that you never hear those type of noise before. So when I was looking more at the video, it's scary. These are events that happened within the last 6 months. This is not something that
3
is
months. Try 3.
Well, altogether 6 months because we're looking at November.
That's true.
And we just looking at the catastrophe in those areas where people are crying, not having a place to live, living in tents, are swimming, so much rain hit that area. And what it was 3 years that hit in a day or two, that's quite a bit.
And even where we live, having those atmospheric rivers shut down some of our highways. And where not only we had landslides, we had lakes in the middle of Highway 99, and also in Northern California, Highway 17. So I think that's the first time Californians have experienced that type of, from going from a drought to an atmospheric river, just flooding people's houses. People had mudslides in their backyard. It was so unexpected because we had a drought year and so much fire. We had a lot of these fires, so the ground was not very stable, and so when those rains came, like I was talking about before, the sinkholes, the rains came and really created the mudslides where there used to be a lot of the fires where the houses were, so they were just sliding off of their off of their foundation. It was the scariest thing because some of those highways, like my cousin who works in UCLA hospital was talking about, that's the highway she always takes. And she freaked out when she saw that there was a sinkhole and the cars that were trapped under there. I don't know if you remember that. That was scary for her because it hit home. Like, oh, this is in my backyard. This could happen to me. And I hate that happened. I hate that once it happens to us, then we say it could happen to us. That's when it's too late, when we think it won't happen to us. And that's why we just wanted to bring to your attention that this is happening everywhere. We've seen these videos about what's happening in Africa and the flooding that is happening in all these different countries and the earthquakes. And this is why we're reassuring you that there is a way. The global crisis, there is a way out, literally means that there is a way out if we come together. And the Creative Society has given us that opportunity to not only to talk to you today, and to not only bring the Black experience of being human in the Creative Society, but also to be truthful in what we're saying, to give you the science behind it, and help you to understand that this is going to keep happening if we don't do something now. And I am imploring you to please join us and let's do this together. Others are joining us and coming together and are seeing the bigger picture. And plus, don't you want a different life? Don't you want something that is about who you are as a person, not who you are as a person of color or a person by race or a person by gender or a person that's discriminated against. We just want you to be you. We want to be able to accept you as you. And we want to have a society with you and be in a peaceful society with you. And so we've got so many other things to explore, like the technology that's exciting.
That's exciting.
And when we explore that, you'd be like, oh, okay, I'm in. Because that's what we were like, yeah, we're in. We want that. Like, I really want that capsule. I keep talking about that capsule. And so we'll talk to you more about that. But in this episode, we wanted to tell you what's going to keep happening as far as the turbulence and the climate that is changing right before your eyes. No, you are not crazy. We would think, like, is there something wrong with this? Because nobody's talking about this, but we're talking about it. Yeah. We're going out on a limb, and we're talking about it. We're not afraid to talk about it. I'm not afraid. Are you afraid to talk about this?
I'm not afraid at all about talking about it. I'm more afraid of what's about to happen.
Yes.
And if we don't do nothing about it, we have to do something about it. And by doing something is uniting. Uniting together, to come together, work together.
Yes.
Because we don't have to say, oh, is this a hoax? All you have to do is turn on the TV. All you have to do is
look outside for something.
Look at climate change. Just say climate change on YouTube or anything like that. And you'll know and say, okay, what can I do?
Yes.
Ask yourself, what can I do? First of all, Creative Society, subscribe. First of all, get in touch with us. First of all, what do you can contribute? Talent, skills, educational background, even your
or
resources.
just talking about it.
Yes.
Forget your educational background. If you just want to be able to talk about it, having one-on-ones and talk with us on camera or off camera, whatever you feel comfortable with, that it starts right there. This coordination center that we're launching right now and showing you in the second episode, we're just talking.
That's it.
This is husband and wife having a conversation with you and helping you to understand what we're going through and what we experience. And we experienced the climate change from the drought to the flood in our own house to our family being flooded, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure our audience experienced it too. Somewhere in this country, you experience a change in your lifestyle and you want something different, or you want to contribute whatever you can to make it better for not only yourself, but your family and your future offsprings.
So if you want to see a future, have a future, I'm just saying, join us and find out more. We are the Black Experience of Being Human in the Creative Society. You can check us out at amptvnow.com or amptvnow.net or blendedtv.me or at the Creative Society itself. Check out the videos and ask the questions. If you have questions to ask us, please send it to us. We'd be happy to answer it. And if we can't answer it, we will get the scientists for you to make sure you have your answer. A Creative Society is not afraid to give you the answer straightforward, and they go straight to the point, no flowery language. They're just going to tell you what's happening. They'll tell you, yes, that's happening, or no, that's not. It's as simple as that. But we're telling you things are happening. But join us because we got another way. We got another solution for you. I promise you that. I used to be like you thinking, are you sure? Does she know what she's talking about? I wouldn't be here talking to you right now and saying, yes, there's a way, and that the Creative Society is the answer. Normally people say, oh, there's no such thing as just one way. In this case, there is, just because of there's so much more that we want to share with you. So thank you for joining us on this episode of the Black Experience of Being Human in the Creative Society. And one other thing I want to say, those of you who have watched the forum, Global Crisis, There Is a Way Out, share your thoughts, share your videos, put them on social media, share them with us, and we'll share them if you don't want to share them. We'll do it for you. We just want people to know what your thoughts were. And be honest. That's okay to be honest. If you were unsure about something, that's okay. Put that in the comments. We can handle it.
Yes.
We don't mind if you have questions. But if you watched it and you have comments, please comment on this. We got to get this out to the world, y'all. We got to let everybody know what's happening. And at least your thoughts, what's happening on a worldwide level. Not just on our level, Julie and Lennice level, everywhere. So please share that with us. We're looking forward to speaking with some of you, maybe right here in this forum, this type of episode. We would love to be able to talk to you, to share your experiences and your thoughts. My name is Julia Dudley Najieb, along with
Lennice Najieb.
Thank you for watching us in this episode, and until the next episode, we'll see you then.